The house was always different at night. The familiar corners warped into something alien, something that watched. I was 15, and being home alone was supposed to be a treat, a taste of freedom. But tonight, the silence was a weight, pressing down on me. I needed the extra charger from my parents' room. Just a quick trip, in and out. That's what I told myself. The hallway stretched before me. A tunnel of darkness, punctuated by the faint glow of the living room TV I'd left on for company. Each floorboard creaked under my bare feet, a sound magnified by the stillness. Reaching their door, I pushed it open. The air inside was cold, heavy with the scent of my mum's perfume and something else, ... something stale. The room was a pit of shadows, the moonlight barely piercing the thick curtains. I fumbled along the wall, my hands searching for the light switch. My fingers brushed against the cool paint, the wooden frame of a picture. Then, nothing. I remembered my dad complaining the switch was broken. Great. I took a hesitant step inside, my eyes struggling to adjust. The huge silhouette of the king-size bed loomed in the center of the room. The dresser was against the far wall. That's where the charger would be. I crept forward, arms outstretched like a sleepwalker. The carpet muffled my steps, but I could hear the frantic thump of my own heart. It felt like wading through deep water. Then it happened. A loud, jarring bang echoed from downstairs. It wasn't a creak or a groan of the old house settling. It was a solid, deliberate sound, a fist against the front door. I froze, every muscle tensing. Who would be knocking this late? Maybe it was a neighbor, but the knock came again, harder this time. Bam, bam, bam. It was aggressive, demanding. Panic began to bubble in my chest. I told myself to stay calm, that it was probably nothing. I started to back out of the bedroom, my eyes locked on the dark hallway leading to the stairs. Then came a new sound, a metallic rattle, the unmistakable sound of the front doorknob being violently twisted. Back and forth, a frantic, angry rhythm. Someone was trying to get in. My breath hitched in my throat. This wasn't a nava. This wasn't a mistake. This was real. I flattened myself against the wall of my parents' doorway, peering down the stairs. I could see the bottom of the front door. A sliver of blackness appeared underneath it. A shadow. It shifted, grew larger, then smaller. Someone was standing right there on our welcome mat. The rattling stopped. A sickening, scraping sound followed, like metal on metal. They were trying to pick the lock, or worse, pry it open. I had to hide. My mind raced. My bedroom was too far. The closet. Too obvious. The front door groaned, the wood splintering. There wasn't time. I spun around, my eyes darting across the dark landscape of my parents' room. The ensuite bathroom. Yes, it had a lock. And a window. I scrambled across the room, bumping into the corner of the bed, a sharp pain shooting up my thigh. I ignored it, yanking open the bathroom door and slipping inside. My trembling fingers fumbled with the small lock on the knob, finally clicking it into place. I leaned against the door, my entire body shaking, listening. Crack, a deafening noise from downstairs. The front door had given way. Heavy, deliberate footsteps echoed on the hardwood floor of the entryway. They were inside my house. My heart felt like it was going to explode. I held my breath, trying to be completely silent. The footsteps moved through the living room, slow, methodical, a predator stalking its territory. My territory. I looked at the bathroom window. It was small, high up on the wall above the toilet. It was my only way out. I climbed onto the toilet seat, my feet slipping on the porcelain. I reached up and struggled with the latch. It was stiff, probably hadn't been opened in years. The footsteps were coming up the stairs now. Thump, thump, thump. Each step was a hammer blow to my sanity. I put all my weight into it, and with a painful screech, the latch gave way. I pushed the window open, the cool night air hitting my face. It was a straight drop to the bushes below. A one-story drop, but it felt like a cliff. The footsteps were at the top of the stairs now, moving down the hall. They stopped outside my parents' bedroom. I heard the door creak open. He was in the room right next to me. I didn't hesitate. I hoisted myself up, squeezed through the narrow opening, and let go. I landed with a jarring thud in the middle of a thorny rose bush. Branches scratched my arms and face, but the adrenaline numbed the pain. I untangled myself and fell onto the damp grass, a sharp, searing pain exploding in my ankle. I'd twisted it. Badly. I pushed myself up, trying to put weight on it, and collapsed with a choked cry. I couldn't run. I looked back at the house. A light flicked on in my parents' bedroom. A dark figure, a silhouette of a man, moved past the window. He was searching for me. I had to move. I crawled, dragging my useless leg behind me, across the cold, wet lawn. The side of the house, my bedroom window, it was my only chance. It seemed miles away. Every scrape of my hands on the dirt, every rustle of the leaves felt like a siren, announcing my location. I could hear things being thrown around inside. A lamp crashed. Then, the light in the upstairs bathroom flicked on, the one I had just escaped from. He knew. I reached the wall beneath my window. It was open, just a crack, the way I always left it. With a surge of desperate strength, I pulled myself up, using the drain pipe for support. My ankles screamed in protest. I gritted my teeth, ignoring the fire that shot up my leg. I pulled the window open wider and tumbled inside, landing in a heap on my bedroom floor. Silence. I scrambled to my feet, hobbling towards the door. I had to lock it. I had to call for help. My phone was on my nightstand. As my fingers wrapped around the cold metal of my bedroom doorknob, I heard them. The footsteps. They were in the hallway, right outside my door. Slow, deliberate, coming closer. I froze, my hand paralyzed. The doorknob on the other side began to turn. Thank you for listening. Please like and subscribe. The house was always different when my parents were gone. It wasn't just the quiet, it was something else. A kind of emptiness that made every creak of the floorboards, every whisper of the wind outside, sound like a secret I wasn't supposed to hear. I was 15, and being home alone at night was supposed to be a rite of passage, a taste of freedom. But tonight, that freedom felt heavy, like a thick blanket I couldn't breathe under. I just needed my charger. I'd left it in my parents' room, plugged in by their bed. The hallway was a long, dark tunnel, and their door was a black rectangle at the end of it. I pushed it open, and the darkness inside felt colder, deeper than the hallways. The moonlight barely touched the floor. Just a faint silver glow that made the shadows look like they were moving. My heart started to beat a little faster. It's just an empty room, I told myself. Your house. Your room. I tiptoed across the plush carpet, my hand outstretched, feeling for the nightstand. My fingers brushed against the cool metal of the lamp, then the smooth plastic of the charger. Got it? I turned to leave, a small sigh of relief escaping my lips. And that's when it happened. Bam, bam, bam. The sound was so loud, so violent, it felt like the whole house shook. It wasn't a friendly knock, it was a fist pounding against the bedroom door. My blood ran cold. I froze, my hand clutching the charger, my breath caught in my throat. The doorknob started to jiggle. A frantic, rattling sound. Someone was trying to get in. Someone was in the house. I could see the shadow of their feet under the door, shifting back and forth. The wood of the door frame groaned under the pressure. It was going to break. Panic, pure and absolute, took over. My mind went blank, replaced by a single, screaming thought. Run. I darted away from the door, towards the other side of the room, to the master bathroom. My feet tangled in the rug, and I nearly fell. I scrambled into the bathroom, my hands shaking so badly I could barely find the lock on the door. I slammed it shut and twisted the small, flimsy lock, knowing it wouldn't hold for more than a second. The pounding on the bedroom door stopped. Silence. A terrifying, listening silence. Then, a new sound. A scraping, metallic sound from the other side of the bathroom door. The lock. They were trying to pick it. I looked around wildly. There was a small window above the tub, the kind you open for ventilation. It was my only way out. I climbed into the tub, my sneakers squeaking against the porcelain. My fingers fumbled with the latch, my nails scraping against the paint. It finally gave way, and I pushed the window open. Cool night air hit my face. Below was a drop of about 10 feet into the thick bushes that lined the side of the house. I didn't hesitate. I swung one leg over the sill, then the other, and let go. I landed with a jarring thud, branches scratching my arms and face. A sharp pain shot up my ankle. I bit my lip to keep from crying out, pushing myself up. I had to move. I limped across the wet grass of the backyard, my ankles screaming with every step. The moon was hidden behind clouds now, plunging the yard into near total darkness. Where could I go? My phone was still inside, on the kitchen counter. My neighbors were on vacation. I was completely, utterly alone. From the shadows, I watched the house. A light flicked on upstairs. In my room, a silhouette moved past the window. Tall, broad. A man. He was searching for me. He knew I was here somewhere. My own bedroom window was slightly ajar, just how I'd left it. It was a crazy idea, born of desperation. He was in my room, but maybe he wouldn't expect me to go back in. Maybe I could hide. It was my house. I knew places he didn't. My ankle throbbed, but adrenaline was a powerful painkiller. I hobbled to the side of the house, using the trellis my dad had built for my mum's roses to pull myself up. It groaned under my weight, but it held. My fingers found the windowsill, and I hauled myself through the opening, landing silently on my own floor. My heart was a jackhammer against my ribs. I could hear him. Footsteps, heavy and slow, in the hallway. They were coming closer. My closet. It was my only chance. It was a walk-in, deep and cluttered with clothes and old shoeboxes. I slipped inside, pulling the door almost completely shut, leaving just a tiny crack to see through. I held my breath, trying to make myself smaller, trying to disappear into the hanging coats and dresses. The footsteps stopped right outside my bedroom door. The doorknob turned, slowly, silently this time. The door creaked open. A dark figure stepped into the room. I could see his shape against the dim light from the hallway. He stood there for a long moment, just listening. I could feel his gaze sweeping the room, searching the shadows. My lungs burned for air, but I didn't dare breathe. Every instinct was screaming, "Don't move, don't make a sound." He took a step into the room, then another. He was moving towards the bed, his back to me. He leaned down, patting the covers, as if he expected to find me huddled there. He straightened up, and for a terrifying second, I thought he was going to turn around. He was so close I could smell the damp rain on his jacket. My gaze was locked on the sliver of light from the hallway, my only connection to the world outside this suffocating darkness. I watched as he moved slowly around my room, his flashlight beam cutting through the dark, sweeping over my desk, my bookshelf. The light passed over the closet door, and for a heartbeat, I thought he saw me. That the beam paused, but it kept moving. He let out a low, frustrated sound. It wasn't a word, just a guttural noise of anger. He turned and walked out of the room, leaving the door wide open. I heard his heavy footsteps descending the stairs. I stayed frozen in the closet, counting the seconds, my body trembling uncontrollably. Was he gone? Was it a trick? Minutes stretched into an eternity. The house was silent again, but this was a different silence. It was a waiting silence, a predator's silence. I didn't move. I just stood there, hidden in the dark, listening to the frantic beating of my own heart, wondering if I would ever feel safe in my own home again. The night was far from over, and I knew, with a certainty that chilled me to the bone, that he was still in the house, and he was still looking for me.
The rain was coming down in sheets, each drop hitting the roof like a tiny drum, a steady, relentless rhythm in the otherwise silent house. I was 16 and home alone for the weekend. My parents had gone to visit my aunt, leaving me with a fully stocked fridge, a list of emergency numbers, and the entire house to myself. At first, it felt like freedom. I cranked up my music, danced around the living room, and ate ice cream straight from the tub. But as night fell, the familiar comfort of my home started to feel different. The shadows in the corners seemed to stretch and deepen, the old house groaning and settling in ways I'd never noticed before. The wind howled outside, rattling the window panes, making me jump at every little sound. I tried to distract myself with a movie, pulling a thick blanket up to my chin. But the storm outside was more captivating, more unnerving than anything on the screen. Then I heard it. A loud, heavy knock on the front door. Not a friendly tap, but a forceful, demanding sound that cut right through the noise of the storm. Thump, thump. My heart leaped into my throat. Who would be out in this weather at this time of night? My parents weren't due back until Sunday. I muted the TV, the sudden silence amplifying the sound of my own frantic heartbeat. I crept towards the front door, my bare feet silent on the cold wooden floor. I peered through the peephole. The distorted fisheye lens showed me a figure, a tall man shrouded in the darkness of the porch. His features obscured by the pouring rain and the dim porch light that flickered erratically. He was just a silhouette, a dark shape against the stormy night. "Hello?" A voice called out, muffled by the door and the wind. It was a man's voice, deep but trying to sound friendly, and that feigned friendliness sent a fresh wave of fear through me. "Sorry to bother you so late. My car's broken down just up the road. My phone's dead, and I was wondering if I could just use your phone to call for a tow truck." His story sounded plausible, almost textbook, but something felt wrong. The way he stood there, so still, his shoulders hunched against the rain. My dad's voice echoed in my head, a mantra from my childhood. Never, ever open the door to strangers, no matter what they say. I backed away from the door, my breath catching in my chest. I didn't answer. I just stood there in the dark hallway, frozen. Hello? Is anyone home? He called again, his voice a little louder this time, a hint of impatience creeping in. He knocked again, harder this time. Thump, 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 thump. The force of it vibrated through the door. I could see the doorknob, a brass fixture I'd turned 1,000 times, begin to jiggle. He was trying the handle. My blood ran cold. This wasn't someone looking for help. This was something else. I scrambled away from the door, my mind racing. I needed to hide. I needed to call someone. My phone. Where was my phone? It was on the coffee table in the living room, a whole room away. To get it, I'd have to cross the line of sight from the front windows. I crouched down, trying to make myself as small as possible, and peeked over the arm of the sofa. Through the sheer curtains, I saw his silhouette move away from the door. For a second, a tiny spark of hope ignited in me. Maybe he was leaving. But then I saw him again, a dark shape moving slowly past the living room window. He was circling the house. My heart pounded against my ribs like a trapped bird. He was checking the windows, looking for a way in. I saw his face press against the glass of the dining room window, his features still a blur, but the intent was clear. He was hunting. The house, my sanctuary, had become a cage, and I was the one trapped inside. I scurried on my hands and knees towards the kitchen, away from the front of the house, the back door. It was locked. I knew it was. I had checked it myself earlier, but I had to be sure. As I reached the kitchen, the lights flickered violently and then went out, plunging the entire house into absolute darkness. I gasped, stifling a scream with my hand. The storm must have knocked out the power. Now, the only light came from the occasional brilliant flash of lightning that illuminated the room in stark, terrifying detail for a split second, followed by a deafening clap of thunder. I was alone in the dark, with a stranger trying to get into my house. I fumbled in the dark for the knife block on the counter, my fingers closing around the cold, heavy handle of the largest chef's knife. It felt clumsy and foreign in my trembling hand, but it was better than nothing. I had to hide. The pantry? No, too obvious. Under the stairs? The door creaked. Then I remembered the small cellar door, hidden beneath a rug in the back hallway. It was dark, damp, and full of spiders, but he wouldn't know it was there. It was my only chance. Holding the knife tightly, I crept into the hallway. I could hear footsteps on the wooden deck outside the back door. He had made his way to the rear of the house. A floorboard creaked above me. Was he on the roof? Was he trying a second-story window? My mind was a whirlwind of terror. I pulled back the rug, my fingers fumbling with the recessed handle of the cellar door. It lifted with a low groan. I held my breath, praying he hadn't heard it over the storm. I backed down the rickety wooden steps, pulling the heavy door closed over my head, encasing myself in musty, pitch-black silence. The air was thick and cold. I could smell the damp earth and decaying wood. I sat on the cold concrete floor, my back pressed against the wall, the knife clutched in my lap. Every sound from the house above was now magnified. A creak, a scrape, the rattle of a window. Was that him, or just the house settling? I couldn't tell. My own breathing was deafening in the small space. Time seemed to stand still. Minutes felt like hours. I sat there, waiting in the dark, listening, every nerve ending on fire. The silence from upstairs was the most terrifying sound of all. Had he gotten in? Was he walking through my house right now, searching for me, or had he given up and left? I didn't know which possibility was worse. I just sat there, in the suffocating darkness of the cellar, waiting for the sound that would tell me my nightmare was just beginning.